It's a beautiful morning. We're out here in the East Rand in Johannesburg, Boksburg Stadium to be specific, where a number of youngsters have come out to try out for Major League Baseball. $1 million question is, can they find the next GIF Ngoepe? We will speak to some of the organisers a little bit later to find out how all this is panning out.
Face the same way. Clicking of heels, I'm hearing heels. I want you pressure through your toes in a straight line, all right? Height, down, and my center of mass. If I'm back here.
So in layman's terms, you're a trainer.
From a professional standpoint, I'm a biokineticist, registered with the Health Professionals Council of South Africa. But in terms of the role I play, I'm a strength and conditioning specialist within the baseball context.
Now, how important is strength and conditioning in producing a star athlete?
I think in a place like Africa, where baseball doesn't necessarily come naturally to the athletes and the youngsters, there's no real culture present. It's of utmost importance because there's a high level of skill. It's a complex game, so there's some specific attention that's needed for each player. So, if anything, because they don't have that baseball reference and background, developing the athlete is as important as developing the baseball player.
Now, obviously today you've got some very, very young athletes, some as young as 12 or 13. What sort of work would you do with them at that age?
Okay, so the nice thing about the sport and getting them as young as possible is we've often had to struggle by having to catch up and always play a game of catch up when kids are getting opportunities to play this game internationally or be up against overseas opposition where there is, a better defined culture. So what we need to do is just feed them the right tools, the right expertise, the right kind of coaching at each level to be able to get to the right developmental stage without having to, overdo it with whether it be giving too much too soon or too little. So we feed them with basic fundamentals. So from my standpoint, learning to connect the lower half and the upper half, run in a straight line, be able to know the difference between, crossing over, working forwards, working backwards. That's a major part of what we do.
Now, one of the pressures that a lot of parents face or a lot of sports face is doping.
Yes.
Is that an issue for baseball?
Most certainly overseas. Here in our situation, there isn't a sort of regulation control for our sport specifically. It's cutthroat. I mean, you'll see that where there's a good opportunity in sport, kids, parents, families are looking for the competitive edge because you can obviously get a lucrative career out of that pathway. So yes, it can be a problem, but not necessarily in baseball at this stage. We're not naive and oblivious to it.
Tell us about your role as the Zimbabwe coach of the men's baseball team.
My role is to do talent identification in Zimbabwe and as well as to do capacity building for the coaches. We call it trainer-trainee. I do run coaching clinics, umpiring clinics.
Just how big is baseball in Zimbabwe?
Baseball is big. We've got 6 provinces playing baseball in Zimbabwe currently. We do have primary schools playing. We've got high schools playing, which is our development program. Because in the long-term plan, primary school is a feeder to high school feeder to the clubs, club, provincial, up to national. That's our structure. And also it's our 5-year plan with the Zimbabwe Baseball Association.
So what are the challenges that you faced?
The challenges that we're facing with Zimbabwe Baseball is publicity. We don't have publicity. That's number one. The other thing is we don't have facilities. We don't have resources. That's the big challenge. We can say finance, because we do have a lot of program, but the biggest hinder is the finance part.
What would you say to a youngster who wants to play baseball for a living?
A youngster who wants to play baseball for a living, I'll say, baseball, all you need is commitment. You need to work hard. As you can see, it's a minority sport in Africa, and it's not like a traditional sport in Africa. It's a sport that have got special aspects that you need to work on. But it's not difficult to make it when you want to play. You just need to have determination, and you have to have commitment in everything that you do in a game of baseball.
Ready? That's it. Now you see, when you react on that, the stopwatch reacts on that. Okay.
Now, Mike, we know earlier that you're extremely passionate about youngsters, and today is one of those days where you've got a lot of youngsters trying out.
Yeah, it's an exciting moment in baseball in South Africa and on the whole African continent. With GIFT being signed, it's a great motivational vehicle to piggyback on. But what MLB are doing now is we're having tryouts in South Africa, in various parts of South Africa, and we're going to have tryouts on the African continent, which I've been doing for a number of years. But the idea was firstly to identify players to bring to an elite camp, which was held in South Africa over the last 6 years. And now the MLB have decided to go a step further, going younger, to identify talent that we, through our tryouts, can recognize the talent and possibly recommend, well, first of all, train these players and recommend them to colleges in the United States.
Just how young is younger?
We're starting at the age of 12 and to the age of 17. So now we're looking at players that we can identify, send them over to the United States, get them an education, and possibly be scouted while they're in college. So there's a lovely opportunity for these young people, and these young people belong to people, you know, their parents, and South Africa and all the African countries. And you know, I believe that we're going to get a lot of them.
Look at this breakdancer here. Hey, beautiful.
Dean, you've been involved in baseball a long time.
Yes.
What are some of the highlights of your involvement in baseball?
I think the biggest highlight for me is being involved with Gift Ngoepe. To see what he's achieved over the last couple of years is been a privilege, and you know, we're striving to get more kids of similar talent into that same system. So I think that for me is probably the highlight.
So obviously you've got these trials which are pretty important for all these youngsters that are here today. What are you looking for?
We're looking to identify the next gift, the next person that we can try and groom to get to that level, as well as maybe a couple of athletes that we can offer a scholarship, you know, something into college, education, and to better themselves.
Okay, so we saw you doing a number of them doing the 60-year dash. So obviously speed is one of those.
Speed is one of the biggest tools
Yeah.
for baseball. That's probably one of the main tools.
What are the other tools?
It's power, hitting, arm strength, velocity, how you throw, agility, and obviously makeup of a player. You know, it's very important to how they conduct themselves. You know, team sport, because it is a team sport.
What is that pathway? So you're a 13-year-old, you've been discovered. What happens next?
So basically, your 10 training camps such as this, you'll get a gym program, you'll get workouts that you have to do, and play for a club. And from there, you'll go to national training camps, elite. What South African baseball has started now is an elite training camp, where you'll work out your skills and try and get better.
What is it actually that you're doing here today?
Well, this is a camp. It's what they've done is they're going to look at a couple of people and they will find who's the best of the best, and hopefully they'll get a scholarship to go into the college ball.
So I suppose the million-dollar question is, what are your chances this morning?
I reckon they're pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of competition here, but put in the hard work, so I think I have a pretty good chance.
We've only seen a couple of girls this morning, which is great. But are you doing anything specifically to increase the number of girls that are participating in baseball?
Definitely, Major League Baseball has had some female initiatives throughout their programs. It is still very small because softball is very strong in South Africa, particularly. So many of the athletes tend to choose softball rather than baseball initially, anyway.
And finally, Hayley, there are many parents out there that are watching and obviously are keen for their kids to get involved in baseball. How do they contact you, or how do they contact MLB Africa?
So South African Baseball Union is the federation that governs the sport in the country. They just have to reach out to the federation and basically give them the access to where they want to play, and they'll be pointed to the local club or the local school. If it's on an MLB standpoint, they can contact us directly, and we can certainly try and facilitate any information that they require.
And elsewhere on the continent?
Elsewhere on the continent, they can contact myself directly, and we can certainly put some projects together or have a conversation about what the initiative is looking for, and we can then take that forward as a proposal and see what we can do to facilitate.
We talked to them in spring training about the responsibility of leading a nation, and a ground single into center field for Gift Ngoepe.
You have to check his heart rate again.
Gift Ngoepe's first at bat in the major leagues. The man from South Africa singles to center, and that ball will be tossed out. It might go to Ngoepe, it might end up in Cooperstown.
From humble beginnings, it's been a dramatic rise for Gift Ngoepe, who certainly has a story worth telling. The 27-year-old, formerly from the Ramburg Mets Baseball Club in Johannesburg, South Africa, made history on the 26th of April by becoming the first black African to play Major League Baseball in America after making his debut for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's a massive achievement, as thousands of local American players never even make it to that level. After being invited to a Major League Baseball academy in Italy, he was signed by the Pittsburgh Pirates. But it took him 9 years in the minor leagues to work his way up. With us is Victor Ngoepe, who, like Gift, has started playing in the Pirates setup in the minor leagues. Victor Ngoepe, thank you very much for joining us here on Ngoepe Sports, for taking time out of your busy schedule. We really appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Now tell us about your journey to the States. How has it been over there? Have you enjoyed yourself? Are you enjoying yourself?
My journey to the States has not been that bad. I'm really enjoying myself. It's real fun being here. I mean, I'm living every kid that plays baseball's dream out here. So I'm just really having fun.
How did you get into the sport of baseball? You've gone on record saying that soccer was your preferred sport when you were younger growing up. So did you ever think baseball was going to take you this far?
Since I was younger, I've been told that I'm going to have to get a little bigger. I'm too small to play baseball in the States. So I've always really focused on soccer because I had the stuff for soccer. So when my brother got exposed to American baseball, or getting signed, or should I say, I started taking it more seriously and trying to get myself to where I need to be to get noticed and get signed as well.
How would you describe your game? What would you model it on? Is there any particular player you look up to?
Besides having my brother as a particular player I look up to, I would say D. Gordon. He's a second baseman for the Miami Marlins.
Speaking about your brother, it's been quite a long and hard road for Gift, but he's made it to the major leagues. You must be really proud of him.
I am. It's been a really tough road. There's been injuries. There's been ups and downs. There's been this and that. But he pushed through it. He grinded it out, and he did what he could to get where he is right now.
I mean, it's not as though the minors are easy in themselves. I mean, it's a pretty difficult league to play in, right? What's a typical day like for you in the minor leagues?
Yeah, in the minor leagues, it's a grind, man. It's a real grind. I mean, where I am right now, you do it every day. It's every level. You do it every day. It's work day in the morning and a game every night. So it's an everyday thing. You'll maybe get like 2 days out of a whole month of off day.
Obviously, your brother making it into the big leagues after his debut for the Pirates was huge media hype around him, both in the States and here in South Africa and Africa as a whole. What do you think this means for the continent, the sport of baseball on the continent and in South Africa?
It just means a lot more exposure, a lot more eye-opening experiences for other people to know that there is actually some talent in Africa, let alone South Africa. So it's just a matter of fact of people coming out and trying their best to try come out and give other kids the opportunities that myself and my brother got. So it's just trying to reach out and trying to develop baseball in Africa.
Thank you for joining us here on Ngoepe Sports. We certainly wish you and your brother the best of luck in your endeavors at the Pittsburgh Pirates. Best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.